Well, good evening, everyone. This is John Craig,
And this is Sandy.
and it's good to be with you all this evening on Walking in Spirit.
All right. So, what have we been studying? Psalm 23, and we are on verse 5. It's our second week on verse 5. Before we get into a really quick review and go forward, I want us to go ahead and read Psalm 23. Jehovah is my shepherd, I shall not want. He makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside still waters. He restores my soul. He leads me in paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. And that's where we're going to stop. That's the beginning of the 5th verse. And just for a quick review, if you didn't tune into us, I encourage you to go to our YouTube channel, and we have all of the shows for walking on a playlist, and go through there and listen, because we talked last time about the tablelands, because the thought was, what does sheep and a table have anything to do with each other? And we discovered that shepherds understand that the tablelands, the uplands, are those great lands that sheep graze in, and the shepherd goes before him and clears out everything, makes a couple trips actually to make sure those lands are just right for the time when the sheep would be there. And they're called tablelands. He has great effort, puts forth great effort, and takes care of it even though the enemies may be surrounding. He's got his eye on them, and the sheep can graze and enjoy the best of the best lands, even if the enemies are there, because the shepherd has prepared it. Now, that is what a physical shepherd actually does. So that's a quick review of that. And we also went through that Iraq, which we're going to go forward with that tonight too, which is prepare. And it also means to arrange, to put in order, to really set things, to ordain, to lay things, to set in a row. Those were some of the things we learned about last week. And it's if, when you look at that, then as a review, it's as if Yah is ordaining and preparing something really special, because he goes and he makes a way. He takes great care to make sure everything is set in the proper way. He's arranging things and he's setting them in order. It shows us that everything he does is very, very intentional. It's this intentional kind of preparation for you and for me. It's planned, it's orderly, and he loves us, and he's going to show it through that. Now, that is a quick review for that, but we're going to leap forward. But we're still sitting here on this concept of the preparing a table. And I want us to look at maybe this imagery at the time when this was written. And when you think about that, it's about covenant, it's about fellowship. You're not going to sit there and prepare a table just because, but you're going to prepare that table for those who are in covenant with you. He prepares his table for us because we are in covenant with him. Now, we are going to look at a second way to look at this verse maybe later on in the show. But I want to take this trek for now, because to me, at this point anyway, at least one side of it, it's not a concern about the enemy. In fact, there's so little concern that it doesn't matter if the enemy's on every hill around. You're protected, you're safe. You don't even need to worry about it or think twice, because he's got it. Because remember, the shepherd was always ready with his staff and with his rod to take care of business. So we see this, at least this time, from this perspective of fellowship and covenant and security in that covenant community. No matter what the enemies are doing, you're going to enjoy this fellowship meal with Yah, period. This time that he set apart for you. And one more time, we're going to visit this word to Arak, which is the word prepare. And it's number H6186. And as I said, it already has this idea of putting things in order, preparing, setting things aside. Let's also look at this idea that this is laid out differently than the previous verses we've looked at, because in previous verses, though the English has it set in one direction, it's actually reversed. In previous verses, in pastures green, you make me lay. In bide waters calm, you cause me to. So things are sort of reversed than how we read it in English. But in this verse, that's not the way it is. In this verse, he's laid it out. This verb comes first. Why? It doesn't say the table you prepare. It says he's prepared a table. Okay. There's a reason, because the table is not the most important thing in this verse. What's really important is that he has prepared. Who? Yehovah, Yahweh. He has prepared. This table is the result of the action of the shepherd. We can't forget that. The action of the shepherd. So it's no longer this perspective from a sheep, from you and from me, that we need the green pastures or the calm waters. Now it's about the shepherd's preparation. It's about Yah's preparation. The table follows after what he's done, but what's important is what he's done. So a rock. How is that spelled? Let's break it down in the paleo and see if it gives us a more clear picture, or does it cause us to reinforce this idea of what the shepherd has done? So ta'arak is spelled with a tav, an ayin, a resh, and a kaf. Now, when we look at that tav, that picture sort of looks like a cross or a mark, an X. It does mean mark or sign or signature. And it can also mean to seal or covenant. Okay, so mark or sign, signature, covenant, we've got that. Now we have the ayin. The ayin, the I, is in paleo, and it means the ability to perceive, to discern, to see, to understand, to experience. It can even mean that womb, the womb of our minds even. So here with the sign or the mark, and the experience or the understanding, we're going to go forward and look at the next two letters. And here we have the resh, which is the head, the master, the chief, the beginning. So those three, well, we're looking at these words as the sign or the mark, the covenant that causes us to experience the master. And then the kaf, as we've talked about before, is that open hand. It can mean the open hand. It also represents covenant. So put it all together, and we have this idea that it is the sign, the covenant, that causes us to experience the master who has the palm of his, who has an open hand, which means what? That means he's giving, or some would say a sign of experience of the person with the open hand, but I think it's far more specific than that. It is the sign or the covenant causes us to experience the master of the covenant, or the master with the open hand. That's pretty much a promise that we can hold on to, because as we talked about last time, the master does have an open hand. He's very giving. He is ready to take care of us and do for us whatever we need done as a sheep. Because what did the shepherd do? The shepherd went ahead and prepared the land. He removed poisonous grasses or weeds. He took care that the streams were flowing with no blockages. He removed anything that would be an impediment to the sheep, that could harm the sheep, with a close eye out on wherever the enemy was. He didn't remove the enemy. The enemy might still be somewhere else, but he is taking care of us with that open hand, because we are in covenant with him. And it's a mark, it's a sign. And we get to experience it. We get to discern it. We get to understand it. To experience it, man, that's a great word. To experience what it's like to be in covenant with the master who has the open hand. Man, that's pretty incredible. That's Yah's table. That is Yah's table. I want to sit at that table. What about you? Now, what else do we see in Scripture, or what's something else we see in Scripture that talks about a table? And that goes, we can go to Proverbs chapter 9, and we'll start at verse 1 with that. Proverbs 9, verse 1. Because here it talks about wisdom prepares a table. Wisdom prepares that table for us. Have you ever heard that? Now, remember, wisdom is also representative of the Ruach, the Holy Spirit, the Ruach HaKodesh. It is also that female aspect of Yah. And here we see that wisdom prepares a table. So let's go ahead and read that through verse 6.
All right. So Proverbs 9, 1 through 6. Wisdom has built her house. She has hewn out her 7 pillars. She has prepared her food. She has mixed her wine. She has also set her table. She has sent out her maidens. She calls from the tops of the heights of the city. Whoever is naive, let him turn in here. To him who lacks understanding, she says, come, eat of my food and drink of the wine I have mixed. Forsake your folly and live, and proceed in the way of understanding.
All right, so here we see that wisdom has set this table, and it is just like the shepherd. Who is the shepherd? I mean, we're talking about one Yah, that no matter what the chaos of life is like around us, no matter who's around us, no matter who wants to do us harm, that wisdom, that the shepherd has set the table. Remember, it's not about the table, it's about the preparation of our King, our Yah. He opens his hand so that we can experience all that he has for us, his open hand, because he wants for us to do well. What does Jeremiah say? What does it say? It says that he doesn't want to harm us, but he wants to prosper us, to give us a hope and a future. Now, let's look a little bit more closely at this table, or look at another aspect, a side of it. You prepare a table. Now, what kind of table? Since we've been talking about the preparation that the shepherd does, that Yahweh does for us, what kind of table is he using? Now, again, what about the sheep in the table? The tablelands. Remember, sheep do have something to do with the tablelands where they eat, where they graze. So he is preparing a table for those who walk uprightly, for those who are in covenant with him. It's not trivial, and it's not about what the table looks like. It doesn't matter. Is it glass? Is it brass? Is it wood? That's not what we're talking about. Because the word David chooses is not about the kind of table, but rather, even if you look at it, the rank of the table. Now, I've thought of, let's go back. This is going to age me a little bit, but Love Boat. If you guys ever saw that back, I don't remember if that was from the 70s or early 80s. I don't know. It doesn't matter. But you always saw the captain had a table, and certain people got to sit at his table. And it was special. Everybody wanted to sit at the captain's table, but not everybody gets to sit at the captain's table. In other words, it was a coveted place to be, to sit at the captain's table. You also see that in other areas or other things, even in congregations. When we have speakers in at Life of Worship, everybody wants to sit wherever that speaker's sitting. When you go to congregations, this is really, this speaks a lot. I know we've gone to different cultures, congregations that have different cultures. And they very much put you as a guest or the pastors in places of honor, which we honestly, it shouldn't just be your speakers. I think there's something to that, because it's very special, but everybody wants to sit at those tables with the pastors or the speakers or whatever. You even see that in university, the university culture. They have tables like at Oxford that you're invited to the high table. If you're invited to the high table, you get to sit and eat with the professors and the dignitaries who sit at the high table. So what is the table that he prepares? Well, I would not necessarily say it's a high table, but it's that idea of a table that's been set apart for you, and a table that's been set apart for me, because we're in covenant with him, because we're marked with his sign, because he has the open hand. And in university, that table is usually higher than the rest of the tables. Well, this table is definitely more special than any other table, because it has the finest foods are usually on that high table, and it's reserved for those special guests. Well, guess what? You're the special guest, because the high table, the table where the speakers are, the table where, in some cultures, where the pastors and teachers are, our culture, not so much, unfortunately, but there's recognition and it's privilege and it's status. And so you're special when you get to dine at the captain's table, at the speaker's table, at Yah's table?
Well, I was not to jump ahead of you or anything like that, but in context of this verse, it says where it says, "Thou anointest my head with oil." It made me think about whose head gets anointed, and it's the kings get anointed, the
The
priests
priest.
get anointed, and those that are leprous, they're being after they've been declared clean. And so I was just thinking about, wow, it's a pretty good status position. In other words, that's how the master looks at us. That's how he looks at us. So thou, oh Yahweh, it's talking about Yahweh, prepares a table before me in the presence of my enemies. So he's setting this thing up right, because he's considering me of high value. I just that's what I'm getting from what you're saying, and I'm looking at the context of the verse. I think that goes right along with it.
Well, the shulchan, which is the word for table, it put in the context of what I'm speaking of, it is showing us that there's this special table he's prepared for his special people. Now we go back to the word that says we are priests and kings, and you just said who's anointed? Priests and kings are anointed. And so that works with that. David sees that Yah invites him and us to understand, to dine with him at his special table. It's a table not fit for a professor, not fit for some speaker, not fit for anything that we could understand. It's a table fit for Yah of the universe, great God Almighty. And we are invited to that table. And we always think about on Shabbat or anytime we come together that Yah has prepared this table for us to dine at this meeting time and at every meeting time that he's called his holy days, his set apart days. And it's not necessarily the same food from week to week. Sometimes we get to experience his divine presence through healing, through the word, through sometimes we just get to sit in his presence and experience his glory, experience the stillness. Other times we get to be fed through the prophetic word and through in other words, his table is full of lush food that we need, and he gives us what we need at the time we need it. That's what happens at his table. And so every Shabbat, I believe when we come together, that's one of the reasons we worship. And so few Hebrew roots congregations do that because they just want the word, and that's so silly, because it's all about them, me instead of about him. But it's in the midst of him being enthroned in our praises, in him sitting there, that table is prepared, and he gets to rain down that goodness of all the things that he has. But so many of us, not speaking of Life of Worship, and there are other congregations like that too, they want to skip the table altogether and just go and say, give me the meat of the word. I want nothing else. I don't want to experience you. I don't want to converse with you. I don't want to hear what you have to say except what it is for the nuggets of the Torah portion. If he's given you an invitation, if the king's given you an invitation, and he says, I'm enthroned in your praises, I want to dine with you. Why do we say, I don't want your invitation? Why do we do that? Because he set out a high table. He set out a table full of miracles. It's a miraculous table. It's not a table that just anybody can eat at. It's for those that are in covenant with him, those that love him, those that want to be intimate with him, because there's intimacy at that table. It's the company that we keep there at the table. Who are we dining with? That's important. It's the King of Kings. It's the King of Kings. It's a special table. We see that Yeshua had a special table that he ate at with his disciples. Yeah, he did. And he ate there with more than just once. But at one point, He ate there with even his enemies. We're not going to go to the enemy part quite yet, because I'm going to save that for a little bit. But yes, we even see this table that Yeshua prepared, that specifically mentioned towards the end of his walk here on this earth. And it was a table of privilege. It was an honor to sit at that table. He served the bread and the wine, yes, even in the presence of his enemy. He did. But he has invited us to that table.
So what I was going to add to that is going back to this word shulchan, talking about a king's table. It's for private use and it's for sacred uses. And the only thing, what I was thinking about that is it just takes me into the temple, and it takes me in, or the tabernacle, and it takes me to the furniture that's right outside of the Holy of Holies. And there's the table of showbread. It is a table that's used for sacred purposes. It's private. The only people that can go in there are the priests. And of course, and what sits on that table but the bread, the showbread. And representing Yeshua is the bread who came down out of heaven. And I was just putting those pieces together as I was thinking about that the king, who is the bread of life, has set that before us, and so that we can be in his presence. And of course, the temple and the holy place and the Holy of Holies is in his presence. And so what a beautiful picture that is. You prepare a table. That it gives, it's temple language right here.
Right. Keep that vein of thought, because we're going to talk more of that here in a few minutes. But I wanted us to leap over, and we're going to go back and forth between table and these concepts. But this word before me, because it's lipane or panim. So where do we hear this? Well, I want us to think about that, because it's panim a panim, face to face. We've heard that before, right? So before me, see, Yah knows the best part of the meal is what? Is it necessary, the eating, or is it in the preparation? We've been talking about the preparation, the cooking all this time. So obviously the preparation is what's so important. And it's wonderful to eat the fruits of your labor. But what about being in the kitchen as the table's being prepared? Talking with someone as they're preparing that great meal that you're about to eat. Partaking or just observing that is very special. So you get to witness how everything is put together, witness the fresh foods, witness the expertise of the cook or the chef or whomever is preparing. You get to see the secrets of the recipes. You get to see the secrets of how the meal's put together. You get to smell the smells and taste and see and experience the ambiance of that meal, even in its preparation, as each piece of the puzzles being placed strategically together. And so sometimes in some restaurants around the world, the best table they put in the kitchen. Now, I've never experienced that before, but I've read about it. So, okay. So the best table's in the kitchen, so they get to observe all that's going on. But David wants us to see that Yah is not a chef behind the scenes. He's much more than that. He doesn't make this meal. That's hidden away from us. He doesn't hide all these from us. What does it say? He prepares a table before me. And when you look at that word, lipane, or it's in your face, it's right in front of me. He's preparing the table right in front of me. I get to be in on the secrets. I get to be in on how he's bringing all these plans together, how he is putting everything together so that he can bless you and he can bless me, because that lipane is from the word face, panim. It's done right in front of us. His miraculous power is done right in front of us. The miracle of his kitchen, the revelation, isn't a mystery. It's not something that we have to guess. No, he's doing it before you. He's doing it before you. it's revealing so many things about who he is because he is so good all the time. We get to watch him work. We get to watch his handiwork. David saw his handiwork. Every day he is arranging a meal for you. Every day he is arranging a meal for me. And he wants us to experience that with him. He's not hiding it. He says, hey, Sandi, look, I'm doing this. Trust me. Trust me. Right in front of you. I don't care who your enemies are. I'm doing it right in front of your enemies, and your enemies can't touch this. So he cooks up the best things that life has to offer for you and for me. And they're going to be different. He knows what we need when we need it. Sometimes I deal with anemia a lot. And so sometimes I have this craving for red meat. And when I have that craving, it's because my body needs it. So I'm going to get some red meat. Doesn't happen a lot, but it does happen once in a while. And so Yah knows if you need this or that or something else, if you need a miracle in your finances, if you need healing, if you need wisdom, if you need his intervention in your job, he knows what you need and when you need and how you need it done. In your family, he knows. He knows if you need that word of encouragement. He knows if you need that revelation. And he's prepared a table for you specifically because you need that specific food for that day and for that hour.
It's really good because I was just looking up something else I thought is very interesting that goes along exactly with what you're saying. And it's in the gematria, the value of the individual letters in numeric and in numbers. And it's 740. And of all different things, another word of the same value is the word mon. Well, we translate that into English as manna, and properly manhu, which means talking about who or what. And so he's preparing a table before me, and we talked about the showbread sitting there inside the temple, and here we have the who, the bread from heaven. It's all connecting together. It's all embedded in this, and that's really cool. And then of all different things, what is it? I was also thinking about this. Thou preparest a table before me. So I'm thinking about preparation day. And what happens on preparation day is that you gather twice as much manna. You get a double portion on the sixth day to carry you through the seventh day. And I'm thinking, do we have some prophetic connections that are being that's embedded, that's hidden here in this verse in Psalm 23? It's making me think that there is more, even more that is worth digging into and looking into in this. I just thought that was very interesting. We do have some connections.
We absolutely do. And they're not mistakes. They're on purpose. And we need to remember that. And always say, Father, you've prepared a table for me. You have prepared a table before me in the midst of my enemies. Let me sup at that table. Let me not be so rushed and rush through that meal, but let me take the time to sit and sup with you, to eat all that you've called me and appointed me to eat at this time. Are we people that get hungry when we're eating in his kitchen, in Yah's kitchen, so to speak? When we are eating his food, spending time in his presence in that prayer closet, do we find ourselves wanting more of what he's prepared? Are we hungering for more of what he's prepared? Are we just there to get it done? How fast can we get it done, get through, go on and do the next thing? Because he is doing what he's doing right in front of our face. He's working all things together for good because we love him. Now, I'm going to give you a quick example. My mom always told me, she said, do not let your husband or your kids know everything that you put in every ingredient that you put in this particular dish or that particular dish, because if they get picky and they're not familiar, then they'll say, ooh, I don't want it. But if they'll just eat it without knowing what's in there, they'll think it's good. And why do I say that? because sometimes we don't like the ingredients he's putting in. He lets us see them. He's not hiding them from you. He lets us see those ingredients, and we may thumb our noses up and say, I don't like those ingredients. But he said, just wait. Just wait. It's going to be good. If you trust me, just wait, because I'm preparing this meal for you. I'm preparing it. I'm preparing that meal for you so that you will be taken care of, so that you will be satisfied. He's delivering the only meal that will satisfy you and that will satisfy me. And we can't get it anywhere else. We'll look for substitutes. We may skip this part of what he has for us and just go to running around and hanging around with him, which is good. That's good too. But to sit and sup with him, to take the time and hear his voice and have that intimate time of sharing. The table, think about that. Where you sit at the table, that's sometimes the best conversation the family has all week. And when we rush through our Shabbat meal with him just to get to the next thing, or skip the dessert, many times the Torah portion is first and dessert is, and some more of that word comes after that, worship and things, but we just skip, or we just eat one course and he set out 6 courses for us. Then we are thumbing our nose at the whole meal of the day. Remember, the whole day is about him anyway. It's not supposed to be about us and pleasing us, doing things for our pleasure. He's prepared a table for you and for me, a high table, a set apart table that no one else is supposed to sit at. It's supposed to be you and me, his people, those that are in covenant with him. And he's done it. He's put in the ingredients. We may not like them, but it's going to be good. It's going to be really good. And so let's sit at his table. Let's watch the work of his table and say, wow, this is going to be incredible how this all comes together. I may not understand it, but I trust you. All right. Well, we are going to look at this from a different side next week, or it's not different. Well, it is different. And as I said this week, I think this is about him and us and covenant. But we are going to look at a different direction and bring in our enemies a little bit on the next one. So with that being said, I guess it is time to end this part of the show and continue to the next part. And we want to thank you for joining us here on Walking in Spirit and Truth.
So the next part of the show is the Craig Report. You want to stick with us here on the Lamb Network. And tonight we've got some subjects we need to talk about, some things that we need to have better understanding and how it connects to the biblical narrative. You'll need to go over to the network, to lambnetwork.tv to watch it, or over there on Twitch under Lamb Network. And so join me on the other side as we go into the Craig Report. So until next time, shalom.
We are richly blessed to bring you what we believe is the fullest, most diverse, yet up-to-date progressive teachings, discussion, and prayer programming you can find anywhere on this planet. Be sure to take the tour of the MessianicLambRadio.com website. I'm Susan Hoogie, thanking you for joining us on the Messianic Lamb Video Network.